Hello friends, it's Kylie here with you all, and I'm super excited to be scrapbooking with you all today. I have a fun layout idea and I'm going to be working with some of the brand new Croptoberfest 2025 products. I love all of the colours, the theme, everything about it this year. It's absolutely stunning. And I just want to draw your attention today to the Chrysanthemum Decorative Punch. This is the punch that released with the Croptoberfest collection and I absolutely love it. You can see there that you get 3 different sized flower bases with a scalloped edge, and I want to share with you just a different way that you can use your punch. They've obviously been designed to layer together, having the 3 different sizes. And this is the very sweet flower that you can produce. I've actually scented mine. You can see I've got a little enamel dot there. I stole some from my floral essential embellishments, and I've added just the little enamel circle as well to finish that off. But you can see it's a very sweet flower. I've been having a lot of fun, and I've actually been creating these larger sized blooms as well, which I'll share with you how to make. And that's what's going to feature on our layout today. Okay, so you are going to need a few extra tools for today. I've worked with my Creative Memories circle punch. You don't have to, you can use the custom cutting system cutting templates if you prefer. I was just lazy, so I went with the circle punch. And I've also used the Leafy Vine border punch. This punch is still available. And this is what I created my leaves with today. You're also going to need your 2-way corner rounder punch and a little distress tool if you have one. If you don't have one, you can just use your scissors, so you don't need to worry about that. I have done a lot of my prep work off camera today just to save time, and I have 4 3x4 photos that I'm going to be working with today that I've got printed out. I think I will be cutting these down just a fraction to work on my layout. And I've also already prepared my background. I will be working with both the project recipe papers and the accessory paper pack, for those of you wondering. So there are the 2 separate paper packs. One's the project recipe, one's the accessory paper pack. Now I've selected avocado for the base of my layout today. You can use any color that you like. The brand new caramel cardstock that you get with the project recipe kit, that would be perfect. For this layout as well, I just preferred the avocado, and I've trimmed down a sheet of bright white cardstock to 11.5 inches by 11.5 inches. Now you can gut or remove the center of your avocado cardstock first, and then you can use the offcuts for another project, or even for your leaves for this project, for your flowers, it's up to you. But that is what you will need for your background. Now I'm just going to share with you first how I created these flowers, and then we're going to start working on our actual layout. So I'm just going to sit my base paper to the side for now. And like I said, I've already done a lot of prepping off camera for today's video. These were the enamel dot stickers that I've pinched out of my floral essential embellishments. I've got the yellowy toned as well as the purple. I was hoping for some green as well, but I couldn't find those. But this is what I worked with for the centers. You don't have to add these. It's completely up to you. But to create one of these larger style flowers, you're going to need your circle punch as well as the Chrysanthemum Decorative Punch. Okay, so we're going to start with the Chrysanthemum Decorative Punch and punch all of our petals. We're going to need around 8 or 9 of these larger sized flowers from the punch. Best advice I can give you, I know a lot of you are going to say, can't we just punch the large one and, you know, don't waste anything by punching these if we're not going to be working with them. My advice to you is just punch all 3 flowers. It saves messing up and cutting some in half, or you know, not getting the cuts right, and you will always use these smaller little flowers on a project somewhere. So even though you're probably punching more than you need, at least they're not going to be wasted because you can use them for another project. So I'm going to punch about 9. One, 2. Okay, now I'm just going to separate out my larger flowers, like so. And then all of these smaller little ones I can put to the side and they can be used for another project. Okay, so next up I'm going to use my circle punch, or if you're using your custom cutting system, circle template and blade. I'm just going to punch 1 circle. Okay, so I've got my petals, I've got my circular center, and then I'm just going to use some of these smaller sizes that I've already got punched to finish layering up my flower. And I think I'll go with the green and then a yellow and a purple. All right, so what I like to do, I'm going to start with my circle, and this is where I bring in my distress tool. And the reason that I like to distress the edges is it just gives the flower a nice texture and dimension to sit on your layout. Now, as I said, if you don't have a distress tool, don't worry, you can just open out your scissors and you can just run your blade around the edge of that circle. Doesn't have to be too perfect and you don't have to go crazy with it. From here, I'm just going to bring those 2 halves together. I'm not actually going to fold it, but I'm just going to fringe cut all the way around that curved edge, like so. And when you've fringe cut, and I mean these again don't have to all be same size and width. Once you've made your way around that curved edge of the circle, I'm then just going to remove just a little corner here and there from the tips of those, not on all of them. Again, that's just giving us texture. You'll have a bit of confetti. We can open that up and just give it a little bit of a ruffle. Okay, so from here, with our little chrysanthemum petals that we've got, or flowers, I'm just going to, with my scissors, I'm going to cut every 3rd scallop. If I bring that up to the camera, you'll see. So I've cut in towards the center, I've skipped 3 little scalloped pieces, and then I've cut again. And you just want to be careful that you don't cut too far forward that you actually remove a piece. We don't want to remove any pieces at all. It's just to open up those petals in order to give them a little bit of texture. You can see what that does. It instantly makes our flower a little bit more workable. And I'm just going to roll the very tips of those petals up, like so. And you want to do this to all of these punched pieces that you have, all 9 pieces. 8 or 9 we're going to need. You could probably cut 2 together at a time to save yourself a little bit of time. Okay, once you've cut and you've folded up those petals a little, I'm just going to take the larger chrysanthemum punch that I used in the alternate colour, and I'm going to do the same thing. This will go in the centre of your flower. I've just cut every 3rd scallop to open up those petals, and I'm just ruffling them up with my finger. Now from here, I'm just going to work with my repositional tape, and I'm just going to add some adhesive to the back of that fringed piece that we have, the circle, and I'm going to start layering my chrysanthemum petals, little flowers, around the outside edge of that fringed cut circle. And I'm probably adhering, I don't know, probably half of each punched flower behind there. And there you go. I've only used 7 on that one, so it just varies. Just see how you go with your spacing and how you want it to look for you. I'll use these 2 little leftover pieces for some smaller flowers. And from here, I can stick down the alternate coloured piece that I've just cut and rolled. So that can go into the centre. And then we can finish it off with our 2 little smaller pieces. And you can just ruffle up those edges a little with your fingers if you like. And we can stick those down into the centre. And I'm going to finish with just a small enamel dot over the centre there, like so. And that completes our little chrysanthemum bloom. And you can see just the difference it makes by just cutting into those petals, the effect that you can get. When I created these smaller ones, I did do the same thing. I cut open each of those little petals, every 3rd scalloped round I cut into, and it just helps to curve your flowers up a little bit for that texture. Okay, so we'll get started on our layout. So you can just set your flowers to the side, and you can make as many or as few as you like. There's no limit with flowers. Okay, so we can get started on the rest of our layout, and we're going to be creating a little window. I'm going to be working with this orange check paper that's in the accessory paper pack. It has this nice pattern brown tone design on the back. You could use the caramel toned cardstock that comes with the project recipe kit. That will work beautifully as well. It's just that I really liked the patterned effect on this designer paper. But you're going to need to cut 2 strips of paper to be a 1/4 of an inch wide. So I'll just line that up. And you're also going to need to cut 2 strips to be 3/8 of an inch wide, which is also the equivalent to 1 centimetre. 3/8 of an inch. You're then going to need to cut an inch wide strip. I'll cut down the lengths of these in a moment, but i've got an inch, and then I'm going to have an 1.5 inches. So just 1. Okay, so you've got 1.5 inches, you've got 1 inch, you've got 2 at 3/8 of an inch, and you've got 2 at 1/4 of an inch. With the 1.5 inch wide strip, we're going to cut that down to an 11 inch length, like so. For our 1 inch width, we're going to cut that down to 8 inches in length. And then for our remaining 4 strips, I'm going to cut those down to around 8 inches as well. This doesn't have to be too exact because they get tucked under with our design. I'll cut 2 at the same time at around 8 inches. The same for our thinner strips, our 1/4 inch strips. I'm going to cut that down to, both of them down to 8 inches in length, like so. Now I want you to take the 1.5 inch wide strip by 11 inches, and I just want you to insert that onto your 12-inch trimmer at the 45-degree angle line that you see on your trimmer board. And you want to make sure that the corner of that strip is sitting on the cutting line. And we're going to remove that corner from the strip. We want the same angle for the other side. So I'm just going to turn that over print side down and repeat that. So just into the 45-degree line there. and remove the corner. And this is what your strip should look like. So you can see we've got the exact same angle on either side. I'm going to take the 1 inch wide by 8 inches long strip, and I'm going to work with my 2-way corner rounder punch. And you just want to punch all 4 corners. So you're going to be left with a nice little rounded stumpy end, like so. And that's all we need to do to those pieces. So we can move our trimmer board out of the way. Now I'm just going to make sure that I've got my background perfectly square on my cutting mat, and I'm going to bring in my ruler and pencil, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to mark through the middle of my layout 5.5 inches down from the top edge. Okay, so we'll just line that up, and that's at 5.5 inches, and then vertically I'm going to mark that at the 6-inch mark. And this is just going to give us a little bit of guidance for our photo placement. Now what I ended up doing, I actually ended up cutting my photos down just that little bit further. So mine now measure 3 inches by 3.5. You don't have to cut yours down, that's totally up to you. I just found it was a little bit more of a snugger fit for our little window by trimming them down just that little bit smaller. You might only want to use 2 photos for this design. That may work. If your photos work that it doesn't matter that you've got your, window frame coming through, you could get a really fun effect by just using 2 6x4 photos. So just see what works for you and what photos that you're going to be working with. I'm going to sort of look at positioning here. So she's sort of turning to the right there, to the left with that one. And she's looking towards the right there. We might go this one here. Now I'm just eyeballing this, but you can see I haven't positioned my photos right to the pencil markings. I've just kept it back just a few millimeters, and this is where I want to bring in my 1/4 inch wide strips. So these were the thinnest strips of the ones we cut. And you may need to, you might need to just bring them in a little bit closer. It's going to, again, depend on what photos that you're using. But they will get stuck down, and then you're going to have these center strips running up the middle of your photos. So it's just a matter of you judging where you think those photos should sit. You might want to take them right to the line as well. That's fine. I'm just going to, because I've cut my photos down a little bit, I'm just spreading mine out just that little bit further. We can stick those into place. Okay, so we've got our photos centered on the layout. Now we can come in with these thinner strips. So you want to just add a bit of adhesive to those. And you can use your pencil guide to position these as well as your photos, but you just want to run your first strip up the middle. And of course it's going to be a little bit longer than what you need, but that will tuck in under the base and the top of your window frame. So we've got our center strip. I hope I've got that straight. I think it is, looking at that. And then we're going to place this strip horizontally. And looking at that width there, we've cut that to the 8 inches. I think I'm actually going to just snip a bit off that. It's going to be a bit too wide. So you can do that before you place your edges on. So just snip that down. So next we can come in with those side pieces. And they're going to come over just the edges of your photos. Just make sure the edges are covered. Just that little bit. And when you're happy, you can stick those down into place. I'm going to try and get that as straight as you can. Add our second piece. Okay, so when you've got these thinner strips in place, it's a matter then of adding the top and the base to your window. So we've got the 1 inch wide strip that's going to sit at the top, and then we've got our angled piece, the wider edge will sit at the top, but it will go at the base like so. And I think I'm going to add that with some foam squares. So we want that to sit up from the page. And again, I'm just eyeballing it, making sure I've got it centered and straight. And then I'm going to do the same for the bottom here. I'm just going to add some smaller squares out towards the point on those ends. And this can get stuck to the base of your photos. And again, keep it centered on your page as best you can. Now, I said at the start of my video that I worked with the Leafy Vine Border Punch. This is my favorite punch at the moment to create leaves for paper flowers. And what I've done is I've just cut some strips from designer paper. And I've also cut some just from some scraps of avocado cardstock that I had. This is where, you know, if you've gutted that base page, you could use the offcuts for this. But what I like to do is once I've punched my little strips, I'll just take my scissors and I'll just create my own little leaf embellishments. And I'll usually just separate small pieces like so. And you can see here that I've just got this, you know, piece here that needs to be rounded out a little bit more. So with my scissors, I'm just going to follow the curve to create that leaf shape at the tip. And what I actually do from here is I actually just pinch those. This is just to give them texture. And when that goes down onto your layout, that's going to give a really nice effect behind your flowers. So you can do that to your green designer paper, your avocado cardstock, whatever you're using. You can make these as short or as long as you like. And again, it's just a matter of rounding out where you remove them from the border. So I've created a little longer piece section there, and I'm just going to pinch the top leaves just a little bit. And just keep going until I've got a bunch. You can always punch more if you don't punch enough. Okay, so with our leaves punched and our flowers created, now we can have some fun in adding them to our little window. Okay, so we can start to stick them down. And again, I'm just using my repositional tape in case I need to move things. And they will take on a completely different look when you add in all of your leaves and other elements. So when you're just sticking the flowers like this, it's easy to get lost and think, where am I going with this? But it will take on a completely new look. Okay, so I'm going to start adding in my leafy elements. Now what I've done, I've pinched just the tops of those leaves And I haven't worried about the base because that's where we're going to add our adhesive and stick our leaves. I tend to not worry about sticking down the tops of those little pieces. I only anchor them with the base. And I'm just mixing and matching both different coloured pieces. Okay, so I've layered those flowers to the base there. You can then come in if you want to, and if you've made any of these little smaller blooms, you can sort of tuck those in underneath as well. Just tuck those here and there if you want to. I'll add another little yellow fellow here to this side. And for balance, I'm actually thinking that perhaps I could add another one to the top of our window here. Yes, I think that will work nicely. So put some smaller ones with it. And then we can have some leaves cascading down the top of our window. I'm just going to finish my layout. I've got the stickers here from the project recipe kit, and I've got a cute little title that says Blossoming with Love and Laughter, and I think I'd like to add it to the base of my page here. Now to finish, I'm just going to bring in my journal pen, and I've got my ruler, and I'm just going to add some little hand-drawn stitched lines around the edges of my page. Now these don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get them all the same spacing, the same length. It's just for an added effect to really frame in our layout. Okay, so with my border in place, that pretty well completes my layout for today. It's pretty simplistic in its overall design, but I think the flowers just add a lovely burst of colour to your layout. I really hope that you give this one a try and you check out the brand new Croptoberfest products for 2025 from Creative Memories. I'm going to have a bunch more inspiration featuring the Croptoberfest products coming up soon with my September sketchbook. That will be ready to drop in about another week or two. So do keep an eye out on my social media channels. But for now, take care everyone, and I shall see you again soon. Bye.